Honest questions deserve honest answers. Honest questions about our histories deserve honest answers. And the real question remains, are museums presenting histories in a way that allows you to think critically about yourself and the world around you? Or have we seen a trend in the failure to find the truth within our past? Either way, the ability to make connections and give people certain tools, and more importantly, the power to create and to foster empathy. If museums fail to give people the tools to think critically about our histories, then our audiences will never have the opportunity to think differently about themselves and the world around you. Historically, this issue mostly challenges traditional art museums and museums with encyclopedic collections. All museums have the opportunity to challenge the way we view histories and tell stories. Empathy is simply the sharing of feelings. The sharing of feelings that is given context by a frame of references. Cultural empathy is the ability to think as another human being thinks, traditionally from a different cultural background. It means to step into someone else's shoes and to gain an awareness and an understanding about something else outside of ourselves. Museums and using museums as a point of reference gives us the ability to, using museums as a point of reference and deepening the understandings and deepening these understandings and reaching out to our visitors gives us the ability to help them think differently about themselves. It opens up the conversations about our histories and lets us explore the important issues in our lives about who we are and where we have been and where we are going. When I was teaching art history, I tried to get my students to relate to the fact that we first and foremost perceive truth visually. Before it is ever given a context, before it is ever spoken into existence. But if you choose to consciously not see what is in front of you, or if you're never given the opportunity or the ability to choose to see that truth, does it cease to exist? It is oftentimes habit that trends within popular culture about certain narratives in our past that are sanitized to a certain degree that makes them easily digestible. If we do not ask the important questions about our lives, we will continue to see failure. Presenting histories in museums is not something that has to be obscene or to have shock value, but by diminishing the value of challenging topics and important questions, what justice is served by perpetuating institutionalized stereotypes and asking the same questions over and over? Remember this, that if we do not ask the important questions about our histories, levels of empathy will remain stagnant, and we will never have the ability to obtain new self-discovering truths. Have you ever had a profound experience? Whether it was through a museum or a book or a movie or a theater that made you stop and reevaluate the way you spoke or your actions or even the way you process information. I wanted to share a personal story about a recent trip I took with a dear friend and colleague of mine who also happens to be Cherokee. While most people, I think, would conventionally go on a ski trip during their spring break, we got in our car and we drove 18 hours to North Carolina. And we stopped along the way and we visited certain historical sites. On the first day, one of the, I think, most profound sites that we visited was a place that was called New Echota. New Echota historically was the last capital of the Cherokee people before they were removed westward to what is now the present-day state of Oklahoma. But what's important about New Echota is that there is the foundation, or the remaining foundation, the building no longer in existence, which is the spot in which the physical document was signed that gave the United States federal government political and legal leverage to remove these people to the West. 31 years I have lived in the state of Oklahoma. The state that has a profound impact on certain histories within our own context. And I had never made this connection. I was never able to put together the pieces of someone else's history and to look at my own and say, these happen to be maybe one and the same, although we have approached them from different angles. What's important about this narrative is that it is not my story, but that it is your story, and that it is our story, and it is part of our shared collective humanity. While many people do not have the means or the capacity to travel long distances to visit the wondrous monuments of the world, or to visit countries and cultures that are outside of their own, we do have museums. Most people in this country have reasonable access to either a local historical site or a museum. Museums cannot change what has happened in the past. Museums most certainly have the opportunity to make people and humanity connected, relevant, and present. Building these connections and presenting histories in a challenging and thoughtful manner is the rich opportunity that gives museums great potential. But only if we have the courage and the leadership to reach out and to start making those connections and to help people view and to see the world differently around them. Shed complacency and spark the imagination in a way that when visitors leave the walls of our museums, they can make those connections in the real and the present world. History is not something that once was, that ceased to exist, and somehow will materialize itself in the future. You are part of the continuum, and you live your life within the discourse today, not addressing important issues about our histories does not somehow magically omit you from the truth. Although we've seen a rise in the industry of specialized museums that give voices and histories to those in the past that have been marginalized or stereotyped or stricken from the record completely, I think that we should try this. Let museums be a catalyst for empathy. It is not our jobs in museums to tell people what to think or what is great art or what is bad art, but rather equip them with the tools to empathize and to better address the parts of their histories that can be both uncomfortable and challenging. Museums that empower with empathy, created from an honest, unbiased, and relative approach to the dissemination of their collections, will be the standard bearers that gives people the opportunity to discover self-truths and to make and bridge those connections between them and the world. Let museums be a catalyst for empathy, as to create the ability to see truth expressed through visual and material culture in a way that helps us better understand our own histories and give us a deeper sense of our shared humanity. Thank you so much.